Hola, minasan! Welcome back for another round of One Piece. Last set of chapters, we had Nami's backstory. It was tragic. It was sad. And it made a lot more sense regarding how the adults responded than the live action adults responded. And Nojiko as well. Was not a big fan that the live action went with a stereotypical trope, a used up old trope, because the manga explained a lot better as to how Nami ended up in Arlong's pirate gang, and it makes a lot more sense. But nevertheless, the arc is really peaking right now, and I am extremely excited to see what's going to happen next in the next set of chapters. So let's not waste any time and let's get reading. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda, Chapter 81, Tears. The marine ship of Nezumi floated along the coast, docked, as he had claimed the money that he took from Nami after all the effort she put to try and save her village and all the people from Arlong's pirates. To the sound of ooh, Nezumi cherished his treasure.
Nyah, nyah, nyah. I can't stop laughing. 93 million berries. And 30% of it is ours. Splendid.
He said. He said as he counted the money and played around with the cash and moved the jewelry and smelled the scent of the coin. But Captain, the crewmate said, it's smeared with mud and blood and it's falling apart.
Nyah, nyah, nyah. Money is money. That poor naive girl worked like a dog for 8 years to free her village. But she did manage to amass an impressive hoard for us. Nyah, 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 nyah.
Meanwhile, at Arlong Park, Arlong screamed, laughed out loud. The Navy, you say? Why, how unfortunate! But a deal is a deal, he said as he slowly squeezed his hand under Nami's neck, and he wiped the tear off her face. If you can't come up with 1 million berries, I can't give you back your village. Ah, you cheat, Nami said with an angered face as tears seeped into her mouth. Ho 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 ho! Arlong laughed out loud as a fly entered his mouth and went down his throat. No, now, it's only 100 million berries. Just start saving up again. Ho 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 ho. Or do you intend to run away? He leaned to he wow. He formed a fist under her chin and held her head up and looked deeper right into her eyes. Of course, if you do, the wives of everyone in Coco Village will be on your head. I knew Nami. Nami heard Genzo's voice in her mind. But we didn't want you to feel you couldn't give up and flee because you knew we were counting on you. So we pretended we didn't know. And she slapped the Arlong's hand off her face. He merely smiled, and she ran off. Hey! He screamed out. What's the matter, Nami? Found we running away? And as she ran away, Genzo gritted his teeth. That's it. Get your weapons. We're going to fight.
Ah, Mr. Genzo,
She thought to herself as she ran as fast as she could.
everyone, please, don't do it. Don't throw your lives away. That'll be the end of everything.
As her tears, as she continued running with tears flying out of her face.
Gah!
The townspeople roared as they brandished weapons from out of nowhere.
Ah, you got to stay alive, she thought, or it'll have all been for nothing.
Boom. Doom. Doom. As the sounds of boom and doom and doom echoed all around the island, all around the makeshift grave where the berries were held, the actual grave itself of Belmere, the townspeople were all gathered, ready to rock. 8 years ago, we chose to live in disgrace. We let a 10-year-old be kidnapped and be under the rule of an evil man. And we made a vow, no matter how painful or insulting their rule was, as long as Nami was alright, we would fight on by surviving. But that made us cowards, because we let a little child grow up traumatized and hurt and abused, just to make a bunch of maps for a madman who wanted to rule the world. But this is the last straw. We're drawing the line right here. Well, never mind the child kidnapping, the child abuse, the child theft. No, it was our shame. That's where we draw the line at. Our shame. If there's no hope for us to buy our freedom, then I say let's die fighting for it. Those fishermen played on that girl's goodness from the start. Even though they're pirates and they have no code of honor, they must pay for that. Any objections? Let's get those fish faces! The townspeople scream out, I'll be darned if I'll live under another day under their roof. Yeah, we'll all be itching to fight for 8 long years. Let's get him!
Ah, stop!
Nami said as she stood before the townspeople.
Nami!
Nojiko said as everyone looked in her sister's direction. And there she was smiling like it was nothing. Did her physics grow? Holy mackerel. Oda increased the size, I see.
Wait just a little longer. I'm going to try again. Haha. Just giving me one more chance. It'll be easy this time.
The crowd was shocked. Their eyes grew wide in horror at what she said. Nami. And Genzo started to cry. Plump, he said. Yep, he said plump. Kurobi spoke back at Arlong Park. Smack. I can't let the cartographer like Nami whip through my fingers, but I'm no heartless monster. Once she's drawn towards all the old world's oceans, I'll set her free. That'll take her decades. And the entire pirate crew started laughing at the thought. Meanwhile, back at the village, Genzo pulled Nami in and hugged her. You've done enough, kid. You can't carry the burden for the whole village anymore. That's what we're supposed to do, and let you children grow up being children. You fought well for us, though. It must have been worse than death for you to join that crew. You fought well, kid.
Oh, Mr. Genzo,
she said as tears continued to well up. But now you should leave the island for real.
Huh? But, hey, he's right.
Nojiko said.
You're strong and cunning and you have dreams. Nojiko. What? And you too. Stop it, everyone.
Nami screamed as she pulled out the knife and aimed it at everybody.
I don't want anyone else to be hurt by them. They'll kill you if you fight.
She took long, deep breaths. We know, kid. And he grabbed the knife with his hand. Oh, it was a lot more painful than I thought it would be. Why is it cutting me? That's right, because it's a knife. Oh my gosh.
It's no use, Nami,
the doctor said.
Our minds are made up. Yeah, Nami. It's now over us to take the responsibility.
Now step aside, Nami, so I could take this knife off my hand and stop feeling pain. And Nami flinched. She flinched and stood there as the entire townspeople ran in a full charge with swords and spears and every weapon imaginable. Forward, people! Maybe we can't win, but we'll give those fiends a good fight. We'll teach them not to kidnap 10-year-olds and make them cartographers and leave us cowering in fear of rescuing the child when that should have been our responsibility from the beginning. Roar! The crowd screamed as Nami dropped to her knees to the sound of a thump.
Aladdin,
She said as her anger grew even greater. She clutched her left shoulder where his tattoo marked her like a branded cow, and she could hear the laughter of Arlong in her echo in her mind.
Aladdin,
She grabbed the knife and stabbed it into her tattoo.
Aladdin, Aladdin.
She screamed as she continued jabbing the knife in, ignoring the pain that the tip was inflicting. Her tears completely flying down, and suddenly, with blood dripping down her left shoulder, she stopped. Or at least she thought she stopped. For when she looked back up, there was Luffy holding her hand.
Luffy,
She said as he looked down. He was very quiet. He listened on.
what are you doing? You don't know anything.
Yeah, dude, I don't know anything, he said as he listened on.
This has nothing to do with you. I told you, leave this island. Sob.
She threw the dirt right back at his sandals. Yeah, dude, you told me. And he looked down as he listened to her cries. She covered her mouth as tears completely soaked her hand.
Luffy.
And she looked back with such despair in her face. And she said one simple little word.
Help.
Luffy grabbed his hat. He lifted it up and slapped it on her head. When she lifted her head up, she saw him stretching around and clutched his arms, and he threw them up in the air. Okay, dude. She watched on in shock, and she remembered what he said. Don't touch my hat, dude. It's my treasure.
Oh, Luffy.
Interesting. Oh, very interesting. She lifted her head up and watched on. She stayed where she was as Luffy walked on over. as Luffy walked over to the crew. All right, dude, it's time to stop posing for an album cover. Let's go. Right. And Nami immediately covered her mouth as she understood what they were about to do. Let's see. Back at Arlong Park, the townspeople are standing at the gate.
Hey, you two okay? Did Arlong beat you up?
The townspeople ask. You gotta move aside. We got business with those fishmen. Oh, snap. And they're at the gate with two swords, with two swords crossing each other in an X. Was Johnny and Yosaku, bloodied and beaten, just sitting on the door. Johnny spoke.
We came here to make amends for misjudging Nami, but we lost by a frog's hair. No!
We heard the whole story in the woods and realized our mistake. Now we're too ashamed to lift our heads. That's why my head is low and covered in blood.
You're no match for the fishman, so we can't let you through.
What? Genzo said. We're waiting for a certain crew that's sure to show up here, Yosaku said. A certain crew? Genzo wondered what they were talking about. Inside the park, Arlong spoke as he was, what is that he's doing? What is he holding up there? He's staring at his hand. Lamenting on the things here, as the crew waited to see what was going to happen. Hey, those two just now came to challenge us. Could they be part of Solo's crew?
Solo's crew? Those weaklings? They're all only work killing.
True replied. And suddenly the door bashed into pieces, shrapnel flying all over the place, doors flying, dust in the wind. And Johnny screamed out,
Brother Luffy!
And there was Luffy, cracking the knuckles of his hands, of his fingers. All right, dude, which one is Arlong? Whoa! He said, as he looked back in sheer anger with the bulging vein. To be continued, One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda, Chapter 82. Okay, let's stand up. Luffy walked through the bash gate he created and started approaching Arlong and his crew. All right, which one of you is Arlong? That would be me. I'm Luffy, dude. I'm full of righteousness. Is that so? And what's a wolfie? A pirate. Pirate full of righteousness. One of the pirate crews said as they stood before Luffy, as he just walked down, ignoring them. Tell us your story. You let us stop. And suddenly, Luffy stretched his arms up and swung them across his chest, slapping both of their heads together. Out of my way, dudes, he said with an angered face full of furious righteousness. Arlong was shocked. He didn't realize he was that strong, and the pirate crew screamed out, la 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 la. Luffy kept walking, approached Arlong as he sat as chilled as possible without giving into his rage. What business do you have with me, pirate? He said. And he was delivered a punch in the face by Luffy. It was strong enough that he flew across the entire ground, tumbling into the wall, and all the pirates stood in shock. Oh, Lord! They screamed out. Luffy, with red eyes as red as a bull's anger, snorted out like a bull seeing a red cape. And there was Arlong, complete and totally, dang, complete and totally messed up by the wall and the punch. All Luffy could remember was Nami crying out, Luffy, help! And Arlong lifted his head up. Do you realize what you've done? Dude, you made our navigator cry. Nobody makes my navigator cry. You all lack the righteousness. The only one's crazy here is you. So stay out of this crap, you fish. And Luffy kicked all of them. And a large foot out of nowhere just took each pirate out one by one as they screamed out, "Oh!" Arlong grew angrier, and his vein popped out of his freaking cheek. You always have to dive right in, don't you? Sanji said as he chilled, as he walked with a chill past Luffy while taking a puff of his cigarette. Yeah, but I don't lose, dude. I'm not worried about that, dummy. And Sanji took his JoJo pose, along with Zolo and Usopp. Just save a little for the rest of us. Okay, dude. I'll make sure you get some fun. It's okay with me if you don't share, Luffy. Nah, dude, you're gonna fight. Oh, no. Well, how generous of you, Usopp. Zolo said. But I'm gonna be forced to fight. Oh, Zolo, Chu said. Hachi said. I'm too clever. No one knows alive. The pirate crew was horrified at what they were witnessing. They realized there was a team. Pirates, eh? So that's the connection, Long said as he lifted his body up. The townspeople outside, though, didn't know what the heck to do. Hey, those just who are those guys? You sent him. You see him send that monster Arlong flying. He can't be a normal human being.
What's this?
Najiko said, as Yosaku and Johnny held their swords up to keep everyone out of the fight. Yosaku said, Johnny said, "You can't defeat the fishmen yourselves. No, you'll only be getting in the way of Conrad's way. But if you insist on butting into this fight, you'll have to go through us." "What? Why are you doing this?" Gento said with a sweatshop sliding down the side of his cheek in shock. "You have no reason to fight." To which Johnny replied, "They made Sister Nami cry." "That's enough. That's a good enough reason for us to risk our lives." Hmm. Huh. Whose arrow is that pointing to? "You mean to tell me you came here for Nami?" Zolo said as. Oh, okay. Okay, I see where it's pointing at. It's Arlong. I didn't see Arlong there because we got two giant gaping holes on both sides here, so that was a little hard to tell who's who. Um, "You mean to tell me you came here for Nami?" "Ha ha ha ha! You're just four people from an inferior species. What can you do?" "Dude, I just punched you into a freaking wall. What else do you think I could do? There's plenty of walls here to go around." "Oh, Hachi, sound the horn." "What? No!" the townspeople screamed, and everyone looked in the direction of what was rising from the water. Usopp screamed, "Oh, what is that?" "Dude, it's the monster from the Grand Line. The one that It's the monster from the Grand Line," that the townspeople screamed out. "The one that decimated Gosa." And Momu emerged from the water in tears with a bump on his head. "Moo? The monster! It's here!" "Oh? It's the ferocious sea cow Momu!" And Momu was in shock. He looked very carefully, and he saw them. "Oh, it's just him, dude." "So he works for these guys?" "No." Hachi said, as Momo just immediately turned around and slowly swam away. "No." "Momu, where do you think you're going?" Arlong said with a death glare. And Momu froze in place. He was shivering and shaking in fear. "Well, if you want to run away, I won't stop you. Go ahead, Momu." Arlong smiled as he invoked terror into the giant sea cow, shivering and shaking. All he could think of was one thing: 350. And he turned around and bared his fangs, screaming out, "No! Here he comes!" Usopp said with his hands raised, ready to give up, while the rest they're just standing there all chill. The pirate crew screaming out, "Nothing's their laws." Solo slowly unsheathed his sword. Sanji slowly took a puff of his cigarette. And Usopp slowly screamed, "Oh!" And with a snort from through his nose, uh, Luffy slapped his fists together. "That's it, dude. I've had it. This is a waste of my time." "No!" And Luffy stomped his foot into the ground, cracking it. That sounded the pirates. And with his foot completely embedded into the ground, he used it as a pole and started spinning What's he doing? Sanji said, I have a bad feeling about this. Solo's sweat drop slid down his cheek. Dude. And suddenly, wow, Luffy spun like a helicopter. His fist just flying all over like a top. Dude. And he grabbed Moo, all teary-eyed and scared even more what was about to happen. He pulled down the sea cow's horns, much to Arlong's shock. Huh? Oh, he got the power of the devil, Lord. Run for it! What's he doing? I don't know. Gum gum. Oh, the pirate crew screams out. The sea cow screamed down in tears. Windmill. Oh snap! He spun. What a splash page! He spun Momu's body like a top, as Luffy unwinded his body, and every single pirate within range was getting slapped by the giant kaiju. My man took a giant kaiju and slapped everyone across the face. Oh, that is so epic. And he sent Momu flying. Dude, I ain't got your 350, Luffy said as Momu flew in the air and back into the ocean. He landed into the water. I didn't. And Luffy screamed out as he pointed to the sky. I didn't come here to waste time on small fry. I came here to clobber you. And he pointed at Arlong. As Arlong suddenly smiled. Well, that works out perfectly. I was just thinking about quabbling Woo too. Hachi, Chu, and Kurobi just stood there all chill. That humans are no match for fishman. Smack. Now the real player's here. Solo smiled as he clutched the hilt of his sword. Consider the danger, you fool! Sanji said angrily. Sanji said while patting his foot on on angry Luffy's head. Yeah, you'll get us all in trouble. Grr, dude, we're already in trouble. We've been long in trouble. They're in trouble with us. To be continued. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda, Chapter 83, Luffy in Black. Oh, that's cool. Look at that little one-shot panel there. Kobe and Helmeppo. The eyes bulging out from Helmeppo. That's cool. No. Momu said as he floated in the water in pain. He set that huge beast from the Grand Line flying, the townspeople said. What? Incredible power! The townspeople were shocked to the sound of ooh. Unbelievable! He took everybody out. A human who's matched for the fishmen? Let's see what these guys can do. And everybody watched on as Johnny Yosaku kept the townspeople out to the sound of ooh. Luffy and the crew stood before Arlong and his top guys. Well, watch the tournaments as soon as that's all up, Tues said, and as everyone takes their JoJo poses and getting ready to throw down. Oh, we don't got work all up. Smack. The oldest one part. Yeah. I will. That octopus is up to something, Solo said as he watched Hachi crouch down and then inhaling very hard. Octopus should be boiled in salt water, sliced and seasoned with olive oil and paprika. It's great with booze. I like the idea too, but there's just a little problem, guys. Hachi unleashed a gusher of ink from his mouth. Octopus ink! Sanji screamed as he jumped to the side with as well as Solo. Luffy, however, took the hit right in the face. Dude. Why didn't you jump out of the way, you moron? I can't see anything, dude. It's like got nighttime and such. Where are the stars? Where are the moons? Luffy, get back! Usopp screamed. That's the problem, dude. I'm stuck here. Oh jeez. Luffy's little technique to get rid of Momu backfired on him as his feet were completely wedged in, and I can't see. Oh boy! Why does he always have to? But you did that to yourself. He unleashes another attack. Dude. Luffy looked up. On the logs. And jeez. A whole entire slab of concrete was slammed onto Luffy. Arlong wasn't celebrating just yet. As the concrete cracked, there was Sanji. There was Sanji in his Keanu Reeves pose, separating the concrete into pieces. Who's saying what have I done? Hooray, Sanji dude. I've entered the fray on behalf of that fool of the captain, Sanji said. You said it. Solo let out a sigh of disbelief at his captain's actions. He's incredible. Usopp was impressed. And hey, compared to a bunch of woman-heading crab pirates. Sanji took a long breath of a cigarette. He's not so bad. Tues said, dude, my feet still won't come out. Still? My god, what have you done to yourself, Captain? Wanna test my gallantry, crabfish? I was raised by a pirate. Sanji extended his JoJo pose and let out another puff of his smoke. Only think you got what it takes to take me on, human. Luffy, how about now? Usopp said, stretching Luffy's whole body from the ground. I don't know, dude. I think they're just stretching at this point. Then how about helping me? How about now? Nope, not yet, dude. But you're doing a good job. Oh, you think this is bowling against rules? Hachi said, with his eyes bulging in sheer anger. You're all on board. I'll smash it all. He raised another slab of giant concrete and aimed it at Luffy and Usopp. Oh, God, Luffy, try pointing your toes. Oh, I didn't think about that. Let me give it a try. Hey, octopus, Solo said in his most chilled JoJo pose yet, standing behind Hachi. They're busy right now. Why don't you smash me? I hear you're good with the ladies. Make me one. Oh, no. I'll make you a lady. You made a fool of me after all. Wah. Solo said as he dodged the concrete slam that was slammed at him. Alright, my goblins. Oh, that's ancient history. What you think doesn't matter. The tables have turned. Oh, dang. Zolo said as he held his sword up in a very specific way while unsheathing it in a very specific way. You guys aren't doing the terrorizing anymore. He smiled as he revealed the blade of his sword. We are the theme song.
Oh, okay, Zolo. I'll let you deal with the octopus. Attaboy.
And oh my gosh, Usopp let go of Luffy.
Oh no, I let him go.
Dude,
Luffy.
oh, Chu said as as he heard Usopp scream, "No!" Luffy, taking advantage of the situation, turned himself into a bullet, a giant rocket, and slammed headfirst into Chu. And he knocked him over to the onto the ground. And Luffy returned back to his original leg position, swapping side by side to the sound of boing boing. Darn, I'm back here again, dude.
I'm sorry.
And Chu glared in anger.
Ah!
Usopp screamed. What really want to know? Chu said as he chased the sharpshooter down.
Ah!
He was so far away. he flew right past he flew right past Johnny and Yosaku. Brother Usopp! Johnny said. The townspeople watched on as they saw Usopp blaze right past them. Isn't that the guy that saved Genzo at the village? He's one of those pirates too. Oh, you guys come to the challenge us? You're still hello? Smack. You're from Coco Village, aren't you? Johnny follow up as you're holding. I saw this was a balloon. And that means that every one of you has to Starfire! Usopp screamed out as Chu was covered in flames and knocked down onto the ground. Brother Usopp! Johnny screamed out as Chu nursed his eyes.
I'm your opponent. Got that?
Usopp screamed as he held his slingshot up. Chu screamed out. Oh! Usopp screamed as he led Chu away from the battlefield, away from the townspeople, and into the forest. Is there something wrong with that young man? He's just an odd one, the doctor said. One moment he's brave, next he's running away screaming.
A guy like that, fighting the fishman, I don't blame him.
Ooh. That the sound of the wind blew as Arlong stood before everyone. Kurobi said. Well, it's all right. It's just a small matter. Oh, dude, you're mine. I'll clobber you. Usopp, Luffy threw his fist, but Arlong didn't even move very much. He just tilted his head to the side, and Luffy's fist missed. But just enough, and as Luffy's arm retracted, Arlong grabbed his wrist. You fools act we think you can beat us? Yeah, we actually do. Darn right, we do. We're totally righteous. Now let go of my hand. Is there something you want to say? No. No thanks. Arlong, oh snap. Arlong dropped to his knees, jabbed his fingers into the concrete, and he slowly pulled it up. Wow. And he lifted Luffy attached to the concrete over his head. I know a game we play. Hey, put me down, dude. People who eat the devil food can't swim. Of course, in your condition, you'd sink anyway. Not the ocean. Gum. Pistol. Luffy delivered his fist right into Arlong's face. And instead, he screamed, Ow, dude. Fuel. Arlong chomped down into Luffy's mouth. The piercing damage punctured his punctured Luffy's wrist, and blood began to pour out. You biter! And Luffy immediately chomped down on on Arlong's arm. What? Los bolos. Ah. Arlong laughed as he threw Luffy into the water. Luffy, what you? I'm coming, Luffy. Hold on. The Zolo immediately stopped him. Jumping into the ocean is just what they want us to do. Solo watched them with anger. There's only one way to rescue Luffy. Finish these customers off, then drag them out. Excellent plan. Sanji took another puff of his smoke. Let's do it. Solo immediately. Let's do this. Solo immediately aimed his sword at Hachi. Yeah! And Sanji aimed his foot at Kurobi. Arlong laughed as Luffy slowly sank down into the water, wondering when he's going to reach the bottom. This is bad, dude. I have no strength, he thought as he glubbed to the bottom. Meanwhile, Usopp ran for his life from Chu. To be continued. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. Chapter 84. Zombie. More chores from Helmeppo and Kobe. Kobe's happy about doing chores. Poor Helmeppo. I really like these one-shots, quite honestly. You know, it shows us what's going on in other parts of the world. I wonder if they'll link together. I wonder if they'll all link together, like, you know what I'm saying, like continuity-wise. That'd be cool. Arlong laughed out loud as he chilled in his recliner seat. While Chu and Kurobi stared down Sanji and Zolo. Don't think you're going to remain whole of tentacle, octopus boy. Oh, time was of the essence as bubbles popped up from the water, what was remaining of Luffy's air. That was a run trick, you crabfish goons, Sanji said. Luffy, in the meantime, covering his mouth to avoid drowning as he glub further downward. Arlong laughed out loud. You can't even breathe underwater, that miserable creature you are. Meanwhile, Johnny and Yosaku in shock as they watched on. This looks bad, Johnny, Yosaku said. Brother Luffy's in trouble. There's no way we can save him. He can save himself. Glub, glub, glub. Glub, dude, glub. And the townspeople were horrified at what was happening. I'll finish you in 5 seconds. Solo wind up his swing. He fired another round of ink and Zolo was able to dodge the spray. With a little spin of his body, his sword came in for the swing. Oh! And Solo took off the top 2 horns with cleanly as he realized Haji squatted. Hachi screamed out loud as he prepared for his next attack. Thanks, Solo said as he slowed to a stop, and Hachi wrapped all of his tentacles around the top of his body. Huff. Meanwhile, as Sanji watched Solo's fight go on, he thought to himself, and he dodged the Kurobi's strike. I want to go. You want to love long? Oh yeah. Well, a fish should never pit himself against a cook. Sanji threw his kick and was blocked by Kurobi. Meanwhile, at the bottom of the pool, Luffy was glubbing as he felt the pain flowing through his body. Dude, my lungs are bursting. I'm not even high yet. He plugged his nose up with his 2 fingers and kept his mouth closed to avoid inhaling water. Back at the fight, Zolo's staring down Hachi. I'm no match for a swordsman. Yeah, you talk a lot. Solo went for an overhead swing. He stretched his hands out, ready to catch the blade of the sword. But Solo's swing was so fast, it flew right past him as each hand clapped, clap, 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 and blood gushed out from Hachi's head. No, I don't have time to play with you. Solo screamed as Hachi nursed his pain and tears fell down. This is taking too long. Hurry up and die. Wow. Solo's arm bulged with muscles as he wind up his next swing. He pointed. He placed all of his fingers on his face, and when Solo swing, Hachi disappeared. He looked up, and there was Haji stuck to the pillar. He was holding on somehow. Oh, okay. He used his suckers to attach to the pillar. Upside down, he stared at Zolo. What the heck? Get down here! Zolo screamed as he looked up. Stop stalling. Oh, so I only one sword. You're losing plenty against just one swordfish. Oh, but that's fine. Luffy continued to glub. Johnny Yosaku watched down, wondering what should they do. Darn! That slippery octopus clown is wasting our precious time. But if we dive into the ocean now, they'll just drag us to the bottom. But at this rate, Brother Luffy's doomed. We've got to do something to save him. Okay, I see where the arrow's pointing at. And just as they were ready to jump in, Genzo spoke. Wait for us. And he slapped them around a bit to the sound of ouch. Genzo stood over them as they were nursing their wounds. Oh, right, because they are hurt. That's right, they still hurt. Okay. They're on the ground, still in pain from the beating they received a while ago. And Genzo towered over them. You think you can accomplish anything in the ocean injured like you are? And I'll go help that young rubber boy. Mr. Genzo, the townspeople spoke.
I'll go too,
Nojiko said as she volunteered herself.
Yeah, Mr. Genzo, count me in.
And me. No. If the fishermen spot a crowd of us in the water, they'll attack. And the rubber boy and his friends will have fought for nothing. Genzo tipped his hat. I'll go alone.
Mr. Genzo.
That's an order. Go on. We'll leave it to you, but hurry.
Mr. Genzo, I'm going to.
Nojiko, but your stomach.
It's my little sister those guys are fighting for. Let me be the big sister for once. Now.
All right. Come on, we have to hurry.
Right.
Hachi said as he looked down at Zolo as he flew into the air. Wait, what? And he landed on the floor. Oh? Hachi said. What? Sanji looked over at Zolo's direction. Hey? The wounds. Oh, snap. The wounds Haka and Mihawk gave you still haven't healed. Sanji foolishly screamed down and announced to all the enemies. And Kurobi was in shock at what he heard. Brother! Brother! All my arms! All of us brother! Wow. Hachi Hachi launched himself up into the air. Oh! And he landed past Zolo while he was on his knees. All Zolo. And he took some kind of weird pose with his arms outstretched and spurting out something out of his mouth. But Solo grabbed him by the scruff of his neck. Ha 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 ha. Oh, wait a second. Oh? Ah. Oh. Huff, huff. I'll crush you, Solo said as he resisted the pain that Mihawk delivered onto his chest. And he collapsed to the ground. Crap. Why now of all times? Again. Yosaku said, Solo's wounds were too deep after all. Of course, Johnny said. They would have killed any normal man, or at least crippled him for half a year. Our brother's been suffering in silence all this time. I thought it was strange that he could get cut up like that and recover so fast. That stupid idiot. Sanji looked back in anger, not paying attention to his opponent ahead of him. Kurobi delivered a 1-inch punch into Sanji's stomach, and smoke puffed out of his mouth out of nowhere. He tumbled across the ground and slammed into the wall. I told you to stay out of your toes, Kurobi said. I'll fight the green master of Mishman Karate. The townspeople were shocked. Look, there, it's a man flying. Brother Cook! Brother Cook! And the sound of woo caught Sanji off guard as he laid on the ground, staring out the sky, wondering what the heck just happened. Dump him with the other carcasses into the sea. What boring, inconsequential creatures. Hachi, wake up. How long are you going to sweep? Oh! Hachi stood up to his feet. This all is born is bottom now. And he brandished a whole bunch of swords for each of his arms, 6 in all. I'm the second blood swordsman on Fishman Island. They call me Hachi the Sixth Sword Style. Did you know that? No mere human ever could beat me. Have heaven and earth turned upside down. Huh? Oh. Hachi looked around, wondering, where's Zolo? Kurobi asked. To which Hachi heard a familiar voice rise up from the ground. 6 sword style. Sounds silly. Is that for chopping vegetables? I'm not impressed. Listen up, octopus. Solo stood with just one sword in his hand. There's a man I have to meet, and until I see him again, no one can take my life. Because I am the greatest. Johnny, Yosaku, your swords, please. Yeah, Solo. Now I'll show you the 3 sword style. I'll kill you, Zola. Here's a lot of Meanwhile, Sanji, laying down on the floor, grabbed a cigarette, lit it up, and took a long puff. He got up off his feet to the shock of the townspeople, wondering how the heck he survived. That's it. If that was a 40th degree punch, then those kicks the crap geezer used to lay on me must have been 400th degree. Sanji ignored the blood pouring down his face as he took as many puffs of smoke as he could. Meanwhile, in the water, uh, Genzo, with a giant sledgehammer, and Nojiko found Luffy at the bottom, still glubbing his way to safety. And Usopp continues running away from, keeps running away from Chu. Ah! Ah! To be continued. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda, Chapter 85, Three Swords versus Six. That's a cool panel there. That's the little girl. That's the little girl that Helmeppo screwed around with. That's cool. She's hooking him up with onigiri and tea. And what is he? Oh, that's supposed to be Luffy. So he's doing Helmeppo's doing a voodoo. That's cute. How cute. He believes in voodoo. Highly injured Johnny and Yosaku watched on as they saw Zolo stand up to his feet, stood up to his feet with a determination in his veins. Brother Zolo's in bad shape, Yosaku said. His wounds have made him feverish. If those wounds open up now, Johnny said, you'll die for sure. But there's no time to worry about that. Only Brother Zolo can clean up this island. They raised their swords up, and they were ready to pass it on. As Zolo pulled out a scarf and made it into his bandana, he put the sword into his mouth as Hachi kindly waited for him to set up. Oh, Zolo, you look like a walking corpse. No, I haven't even started on you yet. Hachi said with his swords aimed at him.
Keep your comments to yourself,
Zolo said. Catch, brother! But Johnny and Yosaku flung their swords and spun into the air. And Zolo thought, this is bad. I'm about to pass out, and my fever, instead of going down, is rising. I'm going to have to really make some taco out of him. Oh, wow. And the swords are still flying through the air. as Zolo continued to look cool in his JoJo pose. Johnny screamed out, brother, our swords! We threw them to you. Catch them. I'll show you the world that no human can enter. This six-sword style, which can only be performed by someone with 6 arms and a totally flexible blade. Brother Zolo, look out! Johnny screamed as the swords flew right at Zolo, ready to strike him. And just as Hachi was ready to swing all of his swords at once, Johnny and Yosaku cried for him, and suddenly, oh my gosh, Zolo grabbed both swords from midair and immediately blocked every single blade strike to the sound of thwap.
Three-sword style.
Oh! Zolo immediately activated his trap move, and wow, Hachi swung his all of his swords like Ireland's wild balance with all its 3 swords, and he was shocked. Not a single one of his swords connected as Hachi stood still with all of his blades in a piercing and sliced position. He thought he struck him, but he really didn't.
Streaming wolf swords,
Zolo said as he posed behind Hachi. Everybody watched very quietly. It took quite a while for Hachi's body to realize, oh, it really got hit. And blood splurted out of his chest. Oh, he did it. He got past the 6-bladed whirlwind. Zolo's incredible. Yay! And the townspeople were horrified at what they saw. Hachi said, and he charged at Zolo, not getting the clue that he's outmatched now. I'm going to chop you all. The mathematically 3 bloods is the maximum equal hold. You'll have no chance against my 6 blood. Mathematically, I just made you bleed. Are you not paying attention, you moron? That would be a grave miscalculation. And he remembered what Mihawk said in their first encounter. What drives you, son? Why do you fight so hard when you know you cannot win?
I may have 3 blades, but look at them. They're much weightier than yours are.
I keep forgetting. I forgot that he had his blade in the mouth, and the crowd woo. Meanwhile, underwater, as Luffy glug dude glug, the sound of clanging somehow. Genzo managing to hammer into the concrete with copious amounts of friction-filled water. Nojiko, holding on to her breath, said,
He swallowed an awful lot of water. If we can't free him, it'll be too late.
Darn it. Genzo thought to himself, I don't know if this will work on the ocean floor. The water's buoyancy is too strong. At least there was some logic behind all this.
Mr. Genzo, hurry!
It's no use. I can't break the walk. The water just makes the hammer too slow. I can't carry him to the surface with that thing attached. I need an oxygen tank, but there's no time to get one. And then they both looked at each other and telepathically said, That's it. Meanwhile, on the surface. What? You think your sword's way more than mine? Hachi said as he prepared for his next attack. My sword's weight 650 pounds. Down much heavier than yours, Billy Human.
I won't waste words on a fool,
Zolo said. 6 swords, also his pot talons. He clanked the tips of his swords together to form a strange, scary-looking attack. Here we goes, new yellows. And he lunged right at Zolo, and he blocked with 2 blades. Oh, he swung his arms out, pushing Zolo back.
Oh no!
And he lunged his body into Zolo's stomach. The wounds, the wounds he had immediately sent shockwaves through his entire body. Oh, his wounds! Johnny screamed out. Brother Zolo's gonna die, Yosaku said as he resisted the pain from Mihawk's attack, and Hachi pushed him even further and sent him flying to the sound of ooh. I won't let you touch that alive, Hachi said as he charged forward with all 6 swords ready. What's all the 6 swords? What's all the 6 swords? He began spinning. Wow, he began spinning like a helicopter, each blade acting like a propeller. Solo slowly descended back to the earth as the swords continue to spin like a propeller. Solo's eyes were closed. And he got caught inside the blender. Oh! Everyone was horrified. What? Yosaku screamed out. And there Solo stood, crouched, on bended knee, in a JoJo pose. Oh! More blood splurted out of Hachi's body as his swords fell all over the place. Arlong and Kurobi looked on in shock. Solo was taking long, deep breaths, resisting the pain that of his reopened wound. And Hachi stumbled over in tears and fell onto the ground. Oh, Yosaku said, what could have happened? Yosaku, all this fighting sure to open up Brother Solo's wounds, Johnny said. My soul tasted like my blades and passed right between them. Hachi realized what happened. When the manager caught my hands while I'm the swordsman, not an acrobat. Oh! He stood back up to his feet and picked up all his swords. I now really have the video. I'm really gonna kill you. Solo ignored everything he said while taking on his JoJo pose once more. Yosaku screamed out, Brother Solo looks like he's in pain. I'd trade places with him if I could. And Solo thought, even if most people would pass out from wounds like these, I cannot fall. It's like, oh, Solo, Octopus Potstones, your goal is dead. He was ready to do the same attack one more time. Solo's eyes shifted to the left, and he thought again, even if these wounds would kill most people, I cannot die. There's always 100% unstoppable. It will work on you once. I have to live to defeat Hawkeye Mihawk. I cannot fail. Solo took his position.
Oni.
No.
Gilbert.
Oh! And their swords collided. Solo stretched his swords in two different directions, and all 6 blades shattered. Hachi was shocked as he screamed out loud as he watched the shards of his blade rain down onto the floor.
Now, do you see whose swords are weightier?
Solo said.
Hey, Octopus Boy, are you satisfied? Dragon. Solo
took a new pose, stretched his swords outward. Hachi decided to order Solo. And Solo spun his swords around in one direction.
Twister!
And Hachi flew into the air with blood spilling all over the place. Blood gushed in every single part of his body, slicing into pieces. He looked down at the ground. Johnny Yosaku was shocked. Arlong had one word to say. Hachi! Kurobi was horrified. And Solo removed the sword from his mouth. The rest of you are beneath my notice. I have to save Luffy. As Hachi crashed into the water. Did he crash into the water? No, he crashed onto the ground. He crashed onto the ground and laid there. Solo collapsed onto the floor and began nursing the wound that Mihawk gave him. Solo, Kurobi said with his fist aimed right at the top of his head. And a kick came out of nowhere. It was Sanji blocking the attack. You said me flying quite a ways before, Sanji said. And Yosaku screamed out, Brother Cook! From the distance. I never thought there was a human is blue that could take the full force of my punch alive. I'll wager there are lots who could do it, Sanji said and took a puff of his smoke. Especially at a certain restaurant I know. You're all the sauce to lend me, Kurobi said. To be continued. One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. Alright, what a great set of chapters. It looks like this is going to be a very long fighting arc. I can see it already. Everybody's going to be fighting. Everybody's going to be getting to fighting. But yeah, this was a cool setup in chapter 81. We got to see Nezumi being an a-hole. We got to see Nami's angry reaction towards Arlong as he mocked her and making fun of her. And very nice moment where Genzo, tries to comfort her up here. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to let her know it's okay. They're going to finally take responsibility like the adults that they are and deal with the situation like they should have done from the beginning. But it's a very touching little moment there. Very, very touching. Very well. This was a very well done chapter. Because I'm comparing a lot to the live action only because the live action really went into so many directions. But this is the perfect example here because in the live action, the townspeople decided to go and charge in, and then that's when we get Nami right here dropping to the ground, and she starts stabbing herself, and we saw that in the live action. But in that instance, this was after Nezumi took the money and she started seeing the destruction of the village happen. Like the villagers weren't even fighting back in the live action. This was going on. That was going on. But so it's a little switch up there, which is fine. The switch ups were pretty good because I feel like this manga, what the live action, this particular scene improved on was Luffy. I think this was pretty good what the live action did here in this instance. Panel for panel, this was awesome that the live action caught this whole thing. And yeah, he does say I don't know anything, just like in the live action. But what was really interesting is that over here, he did the hat thing, you know what I'm saying, just like in the live action, but he just screams okay. He just screams okay. In the live action, he says, I think he said, "I will do it," or something to that effect. Like he's, I forgot his line. But he screamed it out a couple of times, and he basically hyped himself up for the fight. Like he was gonna do something. You know what I'm saying? That he was gonna do. I forgot what the line was. It was such a good line, but we got that compared to this, but it was cool. We had the guys doing their boy band rock cover album panel here, and of course the three panels just like in the live action. But nevertheless, I liked it. I like the live action better when Luffy threw his fist up and he says, "I will do something." I forgot what it was. You can let me know in the comments below. I completely forgot the phrase. Let me know down in the comments below. But I like that better. Because in the live action it gave a little bit better characterization of Luffy compared to this. The context is a lot more stronger in that instance. But this is a very, very poignant moment because, she realized, at least in this little flashback on the top right here, that Luffy took his hat off, which he treasured so much, and he put it on her head. And she realized that really means something to him. And she realized what she means. Yeah. Not just only what that hat means to him, but what she means to him as well. Because he made it very clear that, she's part of the crew. And when he's willing to help the crew, he will help the crew. He will help the crew out, whatever problems they may have, to the best of his abilities. In this instance here, it's all about punching and kicking. Oh man. So yeah, that was a very great chapter, chapter 81. And from that point forward, it's all fighting. Luffy punching his way through and just walks up and slaps a couple of these guys around. He's like, bang. But what was cool is that he delivered that one punch to Arlong. To Arlong and sent him flying. Everybody, saying like it's the whole fight. This was a very good panel here, right here on the top right. Oda really, really showed the impact of that punch. He really made a good use of kapow. Well, well that's English kapow. I'm sure in the Japanese characters was just as more dynamic. But just look at the force of that punch. You can really see the force within that punch, and the strike on Arlong. It's pretty good. I gotta say, it's very good, because most importantly, up until this point, like nobody was able to touch Arlong. And what's great is that we can see he can be touched right off the bat. And they end up start having their fight, which was very brief. Meanwhile, we had Johnny and Yosaku, who were already beaten up when everybody arrived, because they wanted to do something about it. But but because now they're heavily injured. And I liked and I find that very interesting what they did here. What Oda did here was that he had Johnny Yosaku beaten up, so they can't fight. Okay, and instead block out the townspeople, and that's very interesting. How do you keep the fight scene centralized while simultaneously not having to throw in the fridge logic of, well, why isn't the townspeople going in? Well, that's because an injured Johnny and Yosaku are keeping them out so that Luffy and the crew can fight without worrying about them getting in the way. You know what I'm saying? Without them being hostages or anything, and most importantly, keep them from getting killed. That makes a lot of sense, but most importantly, it also makes sense that Johnny and Yosaku are injured, so that way they won't be questioned by Fridge Logic as to why they're not jumping in since they're healthy, especially at the point where Luffy gets thrown into the water. And of course, we see Moo and Moo seeing how Arlong treats Moo is sad. Like, he really terrorized that poor sea cow. He just wanted his 350. He just wanted his 350. But my gosh, man, what Luffy did here was just epic. This is epic. Epic. This is too epic, man. He took a giant kaiju and turned it into a blunt weapon. He just took a kaiju and beat everyone over the head with a freaking kaiju. That is freaking awesome. And I can understand. This makes sense not having Momu, because that's a big budget. That's a lot of budget, especially to get Luffy to do all this. The special effects would not look good. The CGI would definitely look terrible and would have really damaged goodwill in the live action. I hate comparing the live action, but I gotta compare the live action. Once I get past this arc, I'll be long gone past this. Actually no, because One Piece live action ended on Arlong Park. So once I get past Arlong Park, I'll be very well past the comparison business, and I can be able to get some better fresh eyes on the whole thing. So yeah, thank you for putting up with that. Thank you for putting up for that. Oh my gosh. But nevertheless, just seeing Luffy taking a giant kaiju and beating everybody over the head with it, it's just awesome. Oh man. So yeah, this is basically now just shonen fighting from this point forward, and the fighting was pretty good. The fighting was pretty good. Everybody got their matchups. Everybody split apart. Usopp got Chu, Hachi versus Zolo, Kurobi versus Sanji. Luffy, being the idiot that he is, once again got not only got his feet stuck in the ground because he wanted to do that one attack against Mumu, which, even though Zolo and Sanji are like, you're dumb. Consider the fact that Luffy single-handedly wiped out an entire pirate crew and left them with just only the top three and Arlong. What a great way to get rid of a whole entire team and not have to worry about it. How often does that happen? Let me know in the comments below. Because yeah, Sanji here with the pose. Hachi decides to slam Luffy over the head, and there's Sanji doing that Matrix kick, holding that leg up in the air with his hands in his pockets. And we get comedic moments with Usopp and Luffy down here trying to break him out of the freaking concrete. But yeah. So we're getting all the fights and lots of fighting, lots of posing, honestly, a lot of dialogue going on, which is pretty cool. I have no idea what it is that Zolo's doing in this panel, but I can assure you, I wonder how many people are like, ooh, right here in this panel. Look at that, man holding like a guitar. Overcompensating or something, who knows? But yeah, thankfully with Zolo, his injury did come back into play. And of course Luffy foolishly got himself in trouble and tossed into the water. So now we're like seeing the inherent danger of having the gum fruit. But of course his idiotic maneuvering. Maybe it'll be a lesson he'll learn not to do something so haphazardly as to wedge his feet into the ground to pull off an ultimate attack. Because now he's in the water drowning, and we get Luffy versus, and then we get Zolo versus Hachi. Very inventive. Various types of sword fighting. Six swords versus three. Very interesting. Good use of Hachi. Very good use of Hachi because Hachi wasn't treated like he was treated like a comic relief. This is the one thing that I'm liking what Oda has done. He doesn't treat his comic relief like morons. He really treats them with competency. Hamepo, from what I've seen from Hamepo in the beginning of the manga, in context of the manga, Hamepo, from what I've seen in the beginning, I think he's not like an incompetent comic relief. Usopp's another one. Saying he's a scaredy cat, he's a comic relief, but he's still competent enough to throw a slingshot and help people out like Genzo. Again, keeping Chu away from everybody. And then here's Hachi, total comic relief, and yet here he is going toe to toe with Zolo. One could say that Zolo's injured, but no, Zolo's is fighting to his fullest because of Mihawk. And we could see it right here. Some nice exchange of attacks. Everybody tagged each other. Very creative strikes. Very well done. Very well defined too, because it's very clear. You can see how the attacks are being done on each panel, and how they flow seamlessly. I didn't have any problem whatsoever going through all of that. Going through all of that, but. And very smart, I guess, in a sense, where Oda, can be able to focus on specific fights. He got Sanji out of the fight by sending him flying. He got Usopp out of well, what I mean by out of the fight means that he doesn't have to. He's not having fights happening simultaneously, but he's logically, putting them out. Saying like he's stepping, he's like putting them to the side so we could have concentrate on one fight, but he's putting logic behind it. With Usopp, he's being chased by Chu because he's keeping, because he got Chu lured away from the battlefield. Sanji got knocked down to the battlefield, and Kurobi for some reason decided I'm not gonna jump into the fight. Of course, Arlong being the boss, he'll let his subordinates fight. He's not gonna dirty his hands. He's the boss. But why Kurobi hasn't jumped in yet, I don't know. But I guess I don't know. I mean, those are some of the things that I don't understand. However, what I don't understand is Genzo. Genzo decided he's gonna take a hammer into the water to help free Luffy. Why? I don't know. But at least they were able to apply logic. And again, once again, Oda doing a great job here, showing that the beating that Johnny and Yosaku took, still took its toll, and they couldn't move. They just collapsed on the ground, still injured completely. Like he said, you think you can accomplish anything in the ocean injured like you are? That's great. You know what I'm saying? Oda really knows how to manage his fighters, and not putting in fridge logic as to why they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and allowing us to concentrate. Thankfully, like I say, Mihawk's injury came back in, and we're seeing Zolo's determination. It's like, I am not going down one bit. Leave it to. This is just insane. 6 swords. Gotta love this look here. This is a nice panel of Hachi and the 6 swords. He's like really JoJo posing hard on this one. You're gonna be hearing me saying that a lot. JoJo's such a bad influence. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is such a bad influence. Now every single pose to me is a JoJo pose. That's how epic that series is. Oh man. Oh, my throat from all that voicing's very rough. Yeah, here we go. Here's the panel. The panel that threw me off here. Right down here, there's Nojiko. There's Genzo with the hammer. And I'm like, how? How? Exactly how? You know? But at least they applied the logic in the next panel that they're in. Their next panel is him saying the friction is not gonna make it make it easy. Pretty cool. But overall, let's see here. Overall, we get the three swords fight as planned, and let's see here. Yeah, another good sequence of sword fighting right here. Very well done. Just look at that. You know what I'm saying? You can see Hachi ready to lunge in, and then he starts swinging his swords, and you see Zolo blocking and managing to hold on to that position where he's like this on the next panel, and continue the motion where he swung and hit the Hachi, and then they start exchanging everything on the top left. Oda really does a great job with the fights. You know, he really does a great job. He doesn't let the time skip come in too hard. He doesn't let the time skip between each frame, mess everything up. He's very good with this. I'm liking the way he's depicting the fights here. Overall, yeah, and basically he got Hachi down. So overall, this was an excellent set of chapters. This arc is really excellent. I don't feel like the fights are dragging on forever. I don't feel like the fights are dragging on forever. Let me compare that to the other arc, Clahador. I really didn't like how the fights were dragged down, and it goes back to my point. When they were fighting Clahador, they were just in that one spot, which was that slope with the giant walls in between. And because the environments didn't change constantly or made use of any of the environments, it was very boring. It dragged out, and it wasn't fun or inventive. With so far with this fight, with this set of chapters here, we saw Hachi grab slabs of concrete and slammed it down. We saw Luffy jab his feet into the ground and did a crazy spin with Momu. We saw Hachi clutch the pillar. You know, he used the pillar so he could be able to do his next move. You know what I'm saying? Like, the environment, the water environment, all the environments, everything that's there is being put to full use, and it's keeping the combat fresh. And that's why I don't feel tired out compared to Clahador. Clahador was just that one slope with a flat wall and with two flat walls on the side, and they didn't, and not a single inch of environment was taken advantage of. It was just only that one bow, you know, the rudder, that part. Was it the rudder or was it the other one? My sea terms are terrible. But the point I'm trying to say is that, again, with this fight here, we're seeing all the environments being put to full use, to maximum use. You got to do that in your combat fight. This is fun. It's inventive. I can't wait to see Sanji versus Kurobi on the next set of chapters. So be sure to comment, like, subscribe, follow. You know you want to, and make sure to head on over to Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and grab yourself a copy of The Impossible Man, a strange fantasy novel written by me. You'll find the links down below, along with links to other merch like stickers and t-shirts and music and pins and so on. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you very much for your patronage. And if you're interested, you can head on over to my Patreon if you wish to volunteer and join in on the fun. And if you're interested in catching these Let's Reads a little earlier, you can join me on my live multi-stream on Twitch and Kick. Every Monday through Thursdays, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a variety of cool stuff to watch, including Let's Reads. So that way, yeah, you don't have to wait too long. Thank you all for joining me. And until the next set of chapters, I wish you all a good night, a buenas noches, and oyasumi nasai.